Hey fragrance enthusiasts and lovers, welcome back to the good old Scentatar Fragrance channel. My name is Benjamin and I do review fragrances, colognes, perfumes, and all things scent related. So let's talk about this one today. This is Danger Parfum Cologne from Roja. Now this is a brand new fragrance. You probably heard about the original. This is the new Parfum Cologne version. So it's a little bit different and I'm going to talk about that. But first off, let's jump into it and let's talk about the smell. First off, this is a violet fragrance through and through. Yes, the violet does die off, but it still adds the fragrance its tone, its body to me. It really sets the mood with this fragrance, especially in the opening. This fragrance, the violet, it's really just going to jump out at you. That's what I noticed right off the top. You got violet. If you're not familiar with that note, it smells a little bit sharp. It smells a little bit intense, almost a gasoline type note. It's kind of vibrant. It's not exactly, I wouldn't say it's a white floral, but it might remind you a little bit of a very sharp white floral without, and you know, if they took away the flower aspects or any of the indolic aspects. Anyways, violet is a very interesting note for a lot of people, especially outside of the fragrance world. They don't know it too well as a note. It's not too common. As this fragrance dries down, you're really going to notice that this fragrance has a lot more going on. This is more of a vintage fragrance. It's more complex than your average designer. Even some of your, you know, more mainstream niche fragrances, this has a little bit more going on in it. It has oak moss going in the dry down. It has, you know, castoreum, which is an animalic note, but this fragrance isn't overtly animalic at all. It's really in the background, but it does add some intensity, some vibrancy, really add some personality with that violet. Now, in the dry down as well, you get a little bit of vanilla. This vanilla is more of an airy vanilla. It doesn't really stand out to me a lot. The vanilla isn't gourmandish or bold or overtly sweet. The tone of this fragrance isn't sweet, but it does have a little bit of that almost leathery or slightly amberish sweetness to it. A real subtle sweetness, but it is nice. It can be a little bit intoxicating, but again, this is more of a retro fragrance. That's what I'm getting out of this. It smells a little bit old school, like those leathery oak moss, sweet, you know, almost animalic fragrances. It really kind of follows some of that classic DNA that some fragrances have. Anyways, it's very nice, but it's not my thing, and I'm going to talk about that at the end of this video. Let's jump into performance. Performance is respectable with this fragrance. It's a 5 to 7 hour fragrance. This is, remember, this is the Cologne version. It's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more modern. You know, your mileage may vary. You might get something different. You might get a better performance. You might get 8 hours. But I get, you know, usually 6 hours or so. So I'm going to say 5 to 7 hours on this stuff. You know, it's not a bad performer, but it's not exactly great. The projection is kind of average, but it's not bad. But it actually has pretty good sillage on this fragrance. In the dry down, when you're walking past people, if you're you know, if you're sitting in a place for a little while, it does create a little bit of a nice bubble. So sillage is nice on these, a little bit above average. Compliment factor, I do feel like these fragrances, at least this one, feels a little bit more vintage. This is not exactly a compliment fragrance. You know, it made me smell a little bit more well-to-do, a little bit more maybe gentlemanly, but this fragrance does have a little bit of its own ruggedness. I don't want to say it's a bad boy fragrance, but maybe it's a bad boy fragrance of like for 1920 or 1930. It's a little bit rugged, it's a little bit rough and tumble, and it does have a little bit of that sweetness and that sillage, but it's not a big compliment getter. To my nose, this fragrance does have a citronella-like quality. If y'all don't know what citronella is, look it up. It's a citrus note. It's a kind of an oily citrus. It has a lot of weight to it. It does kind of add to that, but maybe it's just the violet. I'm not sure exactly what it is in this fragrance, but I really dislike that kind of smell, and it reminds me of citronella. So that's a bad fragrance memory, and I just don't love the vintage feel of this. Other people around me thought it was all right. But it does smell, you know, it's not modern, it's not a aquatic, it's not sweet, it's not a sweet aquatic, it's not a Tonka heavy fragrance. This is not just, it's not exactly a compliment getter. But if you're well-to-do, if you're suave, if you're refined, I think that this can go very well if you're a more of a refined, you know, maybe a little bit more of a rugged gentleman. I think that this could work for you. So the prices, y'all know that these are $300, maybe a little bit more for these a full-size bottle of these Parfum colognes. You know, do I think that that's a fantastic deal? With this brand, I do have to wonder if you're paying for the brand because this is very expensive stuff. It's well composed, it's well done, no doubt about it. You know, it's a little bit more modern as far as this style of fragrance goes, but is it really worth $330? I'm not going to say it's a bad value for money, but I think it's a little bit suspect. Are you paying for that big brand name? Is this fragrance really have that much quality going into it to warrant, you know, $330? I'm not sure. I think it would be a little bit more understandable if, you know, the concentration maybe was a little bit higher and maybe it lasted, you know, 7 to 9 hours. Maybe, you know, maybe it might be worth it then for you. But I am going to say that, you know, this fragrance, again, kind of gives you average performance overall. It's not bad, but, you know, for the price, I don't know, guys. My final thoughts are, again, I feel like this is a vintage feeling fragrance. It's vintage. I don't exactly like it. I don't exactly love the smell and the charm of it. If you have that kind of money, if you're a big niche lover, you can find many more artistic fragrances. Fragrances that are a lot more complex, last a lot longer, that are a little bit more daring or artistic. Maybe they share a little bit more of a story with you for less money. There's some really good fragrances out there. So if I don't really recommend this, but I do say it's worth a try. If this sounds interesting to you, if you want something, if you like those vintage style fragrances and you want something that's more casual, something that's more easy to wear, but you really just adore those, you know, style of fragrances and you can't live without them, this might be perfect if you have the money. Again, $300 or so, but if you want to wear it more on the regular. So, not a bad fragrance, but certainly not for me. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried this fragrance, you know, Danger Parfum Cologne. What do you think about it? Would you buy it? Have you bought it? Do you love this fragrance or do you not? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for all of your love and your time. Again, I hope that don't seem negative. I'm not putting down on this one. It just, you know, I want to really put my opinion out there, and I really want to put my experience out there because, you know, people really aren't saying that and really aren't saying what I feel. So, thank you so much for being here today. If you do, again, like my content, support me down below, and I'll see y'all next time. You know, wear what you love, my friends. Wear what you love, rock what you got, and I'll see you next time. Bye, my friends.